Kia ora and hi again, I'm Eleanor. Thank you for being here, and if you are new here, it's nice to meet you. Welcome. A little bit about me. I live in New Zealand and I'm 20 years old. Things I like to do in my spare time: I like to read, I like to crochet, and I like to tend to my many plants. As a person, there's not really much to me. However, I do have a lot to share, and I've decided that I wanted to document parts of my life by making video diaries. So New Zealand's been in lockdown for the past couple of months. Sorry, that's just Nina playing. Although restrictions have been loosened, there is only a limited amount of things you can do. So with the amount of free time that I do have, I decided this month that I would invest a lot of that time into crocheting. I just thought it was a good idea just to occupy myself, because being stuck in a house and not being able to see your friends or family can get quite draining. I thought I would make a few products to sell online for people to purchase as Christmas gifts or just to treat themselves. So if you are interested in purchasing something handmade, or if you crochet yourself and you need some inspiration, or if you're just curious and want to have a nosy, you can have a look at my shop. I'll leave a link of some sort in the description. One of the good things about loosened restrictions is that I've been able to go out more. I've taken a lot of walks on the beach, and I've gone to a few parks and just sat down and read. And although I really like the comfort of my room, it is nice to get out of the house. So with that being said, today I wanted to share with you what I read in October. Let's get into it. Here is the heavy pile of books that I read this month in October. I'm just gonna go through each of the books that I read and my thoughts on each of them. The first book that I read this month was Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. My friend recommended me this series last month and I started the series and I'm invested. I've actually recently thrifted the rest of the series, and yeah, I can't wait to finish reading all the other books and to lend them to friends, and maybe even one day read them to my own kids if I have any. Overall, good read, sweet, charming, witty characters, witty story. I guess my only critique on this book, it's not even really a critique, it's just, I don't know, it's not really for mature audiences, and it probably would be more impactful as a child. However, as a 20-year-old, I still thoroughly enjoyed this book. J.K. Rowling has a very imaginative mind. It is quite baffling how people can just come up with these amazing worlds and these amazing characters. Like, yeah, it's really impressive. The next book that I read is The Short Second Life of Brie Tanner by Stephen Meyer. This is a short novella from the Twilight series, and my friend was very kind and lent me this book because she knew I finished the Twilight series last month and I was quite upset about finishing it. I just missed reading the books and I missed the characters, so this book was a very good way to revisit the world. This book is quite interesting because it's about a character who we meet very briefly in Eclipse. Her character stayed with the author and she decided to flesh the character out, which I'm glad she did because it is a very good book. It's also a short read, so it's a nice break from those, you know, big heavy books in the Twilight series. We first encounter Brie Tanner, as I mentioned, in Eclipse. She is a newborn vampire and puts on display the unpleasantries of those first years of being a vampire in front of Bella, who is at the kind of turning point where she is deciding whether or not to be a vampire and have immortal life with Edward, or remain human and just live her days out and grow old. So yeah, basically this book is about just fleshing out Bree's character. You get to know a little bit more about her, her background, how she became a vampire, and the events that occurred prior to her encounter with the Cullen's Coven. It's a very good read. I enjoyed it, so if you have read the Twilight series and have been wanting to revisit the world itself, I would definitely recommend picking up this book. The next book that I read this month is another manga by Junji Ito. I read his adaptation of No Longer Human last month and didn't enjoy it as much as I have enjoyed this manga. This month I read Uzumaki. And this manga has the Junji Ito charm that lacked in No Longer Human. This book is based on a far-fetched concept that just somehow works. This book is about a small town in Japan that is haunted by a pattern. See what I mean by far-fetched? The hypnotic shape of spirals is driving the townspeople insane. And it's just pretty much about that. It's just about the downfall of the mental state of the townspeople and the town itself. The book is filled with amazing artworks and illustrations. Like, look at this, look at these frames. Insane. I always admire manga artists. They can spend literally years making books, illustrating them. They can dedicate months to a single frame, which readers literally look at for maybe a second and turn the page. You just need to really pace yourself, I think, when you read a manga, just so you can actually appreciate the artist's work. It's a good book and would definitely recommend it. For those who have read this book, you'll know what I mean when I say I will never look at a snail the same way ever again. Okay, moving on. The next book that I read this month was The Book Thief by Marcus Zusak. I was a bit skeptical about this book because I know quite a few people already consider this book to be a classic. When I think of classics, I think of really hard words to digest. And so I was quite surprised to see a few things that feature in this book, such as illustrations. And there's like little breathers, they were like side notes that kind of drew away from the main heavy plot of what was going on. Although at first it was a bit of a struggle for me to get into it, once I did, I really enjoyed this book. I think a lot of people's take on this book is that you will either love it or you hate it, and I do kind of see why that is. However, I do believe it is still worth giving it a go. What this book is about: Deaf is the narrator of Liesel's story, and Liesel is a young girl growing up in Germany during World War II. So Deaf and Liesel are no strangers to each other. Within the first pages of this book, Liesel witnesses her brother die in front of her, and from there she is given up for her own safety and is taken in by the Hubermans. Liesel steals books, hence the name The Book Thief, and she learns to read and takes comfort in books. I find it very interesting. In this book there are a few chapters dedicated to Deaf and Deaf's perspective on the bigger picture of World War II and what is going on, and he talks about and expresses the strain on him as there are many deaths and he's having to collect soul after soul, even passing the living, and hearing their desperation to take them with him. And although I know it's a very dark and tragic picture, I think it is a very interesting perspective. I did really like this book once I got into it. So I'd say if you are reading this book, maybe just keep persevering. However, there are a lot of dark subjects within this book, and I think you would have to be in the right mindset to read this book. The next book that I read this month is The Testaments by Margaret Atwood. This is the second book in the series. Its predecessor is The Handmaid's Tale. I read The Handmaid's Tale earlier this year, and I haven't gotten around to reading the second book. However, my mum was like, you need to read it, and so I have finally picked it up. I really enjoyed this book, and this is by far my favorite read for this month. It is a lot more fast-paced than The Handmaid's Tale. However, there was a lot of world building within The Handmaid's Tale, and it was a slow burner. This book did a complete 180 and just got straight into it. Yeah, I really enjoyed this book, and honestly, it's one of those books that if you had a lot of time on your hands and you were really in the mood to read, you could open up this book and you could probably finish it in one sitting. Like, you want to know what happens. It's one of those books that you yearn more and more for. This book takes place 15 years after The Handmaid's Tale. It is from the perspective of 3 characters in their pursuit to reveal the corruption within Gilead. For those of you that don't know the basis of the Handmaid's Tale series, Gilead is this extremist Christian cult, to put it frankly. Women are not valued, pretty much. Their only worth is to bear children. They don't have access to education, they have to submit to the authority of men, and a lot of men within these books take advantage of that power and of God's will to take advantage of women and young girls. A lot of trigger warnings within here, like you see a lot of sexual assault, rape, so I would definitely check the trigger warnings for these books. However, none of it is there because it's there to build the story. It is there to give you insight and background of the desperation to bring down this society and the injustice to all the people within the society, whether they know it or not. We also get answers to questions that you might have had at the end of Handmaid's Tale, like, you know, what happened to our Fred, or what happened to the baby. Those do get answered within this book. This book is also formatted in a way that I love. The chapters in this book are dedicated to different perspectives of different characters, and I really like that because, yeah, I just feel like you get both sides of the story. But overall, would definitely recommend reading this book if you read The Handmaid's Tale, and if you did not read The Handmaid's Tale, I suggest that you pick it up. And although it might be a bit hard to get into the first book, it'll definitely be worth it in the end for what goes on in this book. Whew. So yes, and that is all. These are the books that I read this month. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I hope that you have either found something you would like to read from this pile of books, or I hope that just by watching me talk about books has inspired you to maybe go and pick up a book and start reading yourself. Again, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate those of you that take the time to watch me blab on about books. I have also been wanting to share a bit more of what I do with my spare time, because I do other things besides read, so I might kind of delve into that a little bit more maybe next video. I'm not too sure. Again, thank you so much. I appreciate you guys, and happy reading, and I'll see you next time. Bye.